This is my auction bought GLK that I got for very cheap. In the last couple of videos, we fixed all the mechanical issues of the car. Oh, the bolt is spinning! We even went on a road trip with it. And everything went great. We got to the destination, we got back, and that's when I noticed a little bit of an issue. I unfortunately found a leak. I thought I fixed all the possible leaks that I had, and I did, but clearly there's a new one that popped up. You guys won't believe it. The leak is coming from this $5 O-ring. And that leak is unfortunately the power steering fluid. This O-ring is located right underneath the power steering reservoir that is connected to the power steering pump. So in this video, we're going to change that. Hopefully that's going to be the last problem I have with this car, but it's a German car, so we'll see what happens. We also have a few mechanical other parts that we need to work on. Here's the whole entire table of all the parts that I still need to put in. Something that I didn't get a chance to do in the last episode is change the transmission fluid and do a transmission service. So we're going to get to that as well in this video. Before we do, we have to update our board. We only have this $5 O-ring to add to the tally, which is not going to make too much of a difference. But this is not including any of the cosmetic stuff we have to do, and we have a lot of cosmetics to go through. The O-ring was $5.41. So our new total is going to be $9,569.82 for now. We still have a lot of work to do, so let's jack up the car and start getting to work. You guys watched me jack up this car for 3 times now. Hopefully this is the last time. All right, I'm going to start with taking all of the beauty covers off of the car and then giving the beauty covers a clean because fluid has been leaking in them for a couple of days now. And then I'm going to take the power steering reservoir out and remove that O-ring that connects to the power steering pump so we can replace it and hopefully stop the leak. And then we'll move to the transmission service right away. And this is the leak I'm kind of dealing with. It's going on top of the AC compressor, but it seems like it's mostly coming up from the power steering pump, but I do want to verify this. So I'm going to begin by taking off all of the beauty covers. Once again, there's like 20 bolts holding the beauty covers in. And I do have to start removing that serpentine belt tensioner because it is blocking a lot of the leaks from behind it. And I want to make sure that it's coming from the power steering reservoir. The serpentine belt tensioner is held in by 2 bolts, but you do have to release the tension of it to remove the serpentine belt out of the way before you do take those bolts out. But it's a very easy job and it takes about 5 minutes to do. So I've changed the gasket that is located right behind this bolt right here. And it does look a bit wet, but it also could be leaking from the power steering reservoir. So I'm not quite sure if that is the oil leak or the power steering pump, but for now I'm going to tighten that bolt up a little bit tighter and then change the power steering reservoir O-ring like I planned. The only way of removing the C-clamp from the power steering reservoir is by putting a screwdriver through the small slot and sliding the C-clamp out. Then there's 3 bolts holding it in and the whole entire pump just slides out. And this is the O-ring that I'm planning on changing. Before changing, we do have to do a good job cleaning everything up. Then it's just the reverse order of putting everything back together again. But I wish it was that easy. All right, I have no success of putting the C-clamp in. Just so you guys know, that is the C-clamp I'm talking about. It's kind of hard to see, but it's right there. I'm trying to push the C-clamp back into the reservoir. C-clamp is so tight and there's no space. I have no power to actually do it. And I can't even fit any tools in it. I saw some people buy special tools to actually put the clamp in, but I'm not spending 30 bucks just to put a clamp in. I gotta figure out a new way. And I think what's gonna save the day is one of these sockets. My plan with the socket is to put it against the C-clamp and then use like a big screwdriver to wedge the socket into the C-clamp so it pushes it freely. I don't have the strength to push it manually with my hands because it's really strong and it's really sharp. So I'm going to try doing that and see if it works out. I wish I knew how much trouble this power steering reservoir O-ring would give me before starting the job, but now you guys know. I definitely thought I had a very good plan when putting the C-clamp back in, but I ran into a few complications. It seems like this hose is in the way of actually fitting the socket into right beside the clamp. So I'm gonna take this out again and then take the hose out. And once I take this out, I can put the socket right here and then it'll hopefully fit through. I thought I was a genius when I came up with a way of putting that C-clamp back in, but I still couldn't get it in even with different types of tools. I then even tried using a crowbar, but it was putting way too much pressure on the ABS pump when I was trying to pry it. And then, unfortunately, I heard a click that I wish I never heard. The plastic ring at the edge of the reservoir just snapped in half because I was pushing the clip into the pump really aggressively. Unfortunately, things like these are going to happen. It's okay. I already bought a brand new part. It's going to be here in a couple of days. So that's when we're going to finish up the car. It's just a bit of annoying because now I don't really have a car, but that's okay. We're going to learn from this mistake and just move forward. Plus, I am a rookie at this, so things like that are going to happen when I'm learning. It doesn't mean that we can't be productive with the other things that we got to work on the car. I still have a transmission service to do and a few little cosmetic things around the car. So while we are waiting for this part, I'm just going to work on the transmission and get some other things going. So it's okay. Hopefully this is a good learner for you guys as well. Definitely was for me. If something is not going into a plastic part, probably don't need to use a crowbar and force something in. Probably just need to find a better way of doing it. So this is something that I'm going to do. And maybe I did need to buy the $30 tool. I definitely regret not getting that now, but it's okay. Yep, that was definitely a rookie mistake, and I've definitely learned from that one. For now, we're going to take the rear wiper blade arm off because it's actually cracked right in that middle part right there. And once again, I got another complication. The metal part got simply stuck, but it's nothing that a fire can't deal with. Make sure when hitting up the area, you're not really touching the glass because it can crack through the middle of it. And the best way I found dealing with it is actually by spinning the nut into it a bit further and then splitting it when it cracks in half. Now we can give that area a little bit of a clean before putting a new one in. And then obviously I'm going to put a little bit of anti-seize on it because the next person might struggle with this. So it'll be a little bit easier to take it off. We'll put the old wiper back on and voila, it's complete. All right, now it's time to change the front headlights off, the low beams one specifically. Apparently people usually take the front bumper off and then take the headlight out and then change the low beam. I'm not doing that. I think I could do it much quicker than that. So I'm either about to shock the world of how fast I actually changed the light, or I'm gonna take the bumper out and see how that works out. I firstly started by removing the cam by spinning it clockwise and then just putting it aside for now. We can then simply just spin off the light and it will come up with ease. You're going to replace the old low beam with a Philips H7. Apparently these are OEM and they're the same but a fraction of the price. Before installing, I want to make sure that the light actually works, and voila, it does. And now it's finally ready to be put inside the headlight. The only thing you have to do is put it in, spin it in place, and then there's a clip from the top that simply pushes in and holds the light in place. But I once again ran into another issue. All right, seems like I figured out why people take the bumper off. I accidentally pulled on the clip way too hard and it completely slipped out of the slot. And there's no way I can feel my way through putting the clip back on. So I am going to try taking the front fender off and then just peeking my head through it because I'll have visibility towards the low beam section. And I'll try putting this back in with the light. See if that works out. I don't want to take the bumper off. The front fender inner lining is held on by a few screws and a few little tabs that you just have to pull out with a screwdriver. It's a pretty simple process and takes very quickly. You can even do it with the wheel on, as you guys can see. And now we have all of the access in the world towards that headlight and we can actually just see everything. It does make it a bit easier if you do turn the wheel a little bit so you can't fit your head a little bit. But if you don't want to, I think you can still fit your head in. My head is pretty big, but it still fits. I finally managed to put the clip in. It has to be held on from the bottom into just these tabs, and at the very top there's these tabs that you have to put it in. And then once you fit the light in, you can slide that clip down. And now let's test and make sure that it actually works. All right, that'll be it for today. I'm gonna come back tomorrow and finish up the rest of the car. It is already 11 o'clock and today's actually my birthday, so I'm gonna go celebrate now. but I'll be back tomorrow to finish it up. Unfortunately, I'm not going to get this video done this week, but that's okay. I'll get it done as soon as I possibly can. See you guys tomorrow. It is finally time to change the front cracked windshield of mine. My new friends from Boulevard Auto Glass came straight to my garage and started removing the windshield right away. We then have to replace the putty at the very top once the windshield is removed, so then a new one can be popped on. The guys here did an excellent job. It was super precise, and the price was actually really affordable. Wait until the end of the video to find out how much I've been spending on this car during this video. And now it's time for the hail damage of the car. I did make a phone call to see how much it would take to fix it. Yeah, it's a code C359. $1,700? Okay, thank you for your time. Bye. I then luckily found a GLK that was crash damaged from the rear and the hood was not damaged, and it's the exact same color as mine. So I definitely rushed there and bought the hood. I got another O-ring, a new clip, and a reservoir. I think I figured out why I broke the power steering reservoir the last time, and that's because I didn't fully attach it to the power steering pump. So it was constantly moving back and forth while I was trying to put the clip in, and this part unfortunately snapped. So my new plan is to put it in fully, bolt it on so this part cannot move anymore, and then slide the pin in, and I think that should work. Let's try it out. I am now praying to God that I do not have to buy another power steering reservoir. I then have reattached all of the hoses, put the new bolts in, and then tried pushing that C-clamp back in. Oh! Oh my God! I just clipped it on by hand. What? I swear to God, I couldn't clip it on by hand for the last one. Let's make sure we actually clipped it on. So as you guys just have seen, I guess it's in. I don't know why it didn't work last time and I had to use a crowbar for it, but I'm just happy that it worked out. All right, now let's put that power steering reservoir hose back on, and I bought brand new hose clamps for it. Unfortunately, I should have thought about this earlier, but the old clip went through a lot of heat cycles. And because of that, it became very brittle, which made it less malleable and not able to bend it into place, which is why the new one popped in so easily. It's time to pour in some of the power steering fluid that we did lose through the last job. This power steering fluid is really expensive, so make sure to not spill any. And now is finally time to put the car back together and start it and begin the bleeding process. Verify that there's no leaks before starting the car, and make sure you do fill it up to the very top. Right now it's the maximum cold level that it can get to. We can then start turning the wheel left and right by then bleeding the fluid, and make sure you do double check for any leaks. Now we can start moving on to the transmission service. There's obviously another beauty pan that is going to be covering the transmission, which is held on by about 8 bolts. So once we remove that, we'll have all the access to the transmission pan. We can then loosen up the bolts and start draining the transmission fluid. The car manufacturers do say that the transmission fluid is lifetime now. Please don't believe them and change the fluid. There is another tube that you have to loosen up from the inside of the pan with a screwdriver, and then the remaining of the fluid will start pouring out. Now we can take all the 6 pan bolts out of the way, and you can use some penetrating fluid on those bolts. So it seems like for me to remove this bolt right here, I gotta take this bracket out, which is held on by a screw right here, and another one back there. So once I take them out, I should be able to move this out of the way and then get to that bolt. This job can literally save you thousands if you do it yourself. Unfortunately, it's just a little messy if you're not patient. But take your time with it and make sure you are prepared for any leaks that might come out. Right now I'm taking all of the pan bolts out of the way, and when I do loosen up the pan fully, more fluid will come out, but I am prepared. This will unveil the transmission fluid filter and the valve body, and now we can remove that filter. It is very important to clean the pan once you do take it out and remove that gasket. If you do not clean it up, a lot of the dirt from the transmission does get stuck on the magnets and at the bottom of the pan, so make sure you do a good job cleaning it. The gasket is rubber, and when it gets heated up and cooled off, it becomes really brittle and can crack, so make sure you do buy a new one and do replace it. And these pan bolts do get worn out after each time, so get some new ones with the kit. To prevent any leaks, make sure you do a good job of cleaning the surface as well, because that's where the gasket is going to be sitting against. With the kit, I got a brand new filter, so make sure you do put a new one on, and once it goes in, it will make a click. Now we can start going in the reverse order and putting everything back together. I do secure the pan with 2 bolts once I put it in before torquing them to correct spec. These bolts require like 8 Newton meters of torque. So once they are tight, I do a 90-degree to 180-degree turn after that, and that's when I know that they're tight. All right, it's finally time to put the transmission fluid in. I needed to buy this tool right here to pump the transmission fluid inside the transmission because the only way to do it is from underneath the car. And because I didn't do the torque converter, I'm going to put 4 liters of transmission fluid into the pan first, start the car, get it up to temperature because I need to check the fluid when it's at 45 degrees Celsius. While the car is warming up, I'm going to add another liter of fluid into the pan, and then right when it hits that temperature, I'm going to drain the remaining of the fluid that it doesn't need in the car. Hopefully that made a little bit of sense, but that's the general procedure of doing it. So it seems like the capacity of this thing is only 3 liters. So I'm going to pump 3 liters and then we'll put in 2 liters while the car is warming up. There's an adapter that comes with the transmission pump kit. So we can simply just put it on the bolt and then quick release into that adapter. So it has sucked up all 3 liters of fluid. Now we're going to start the car and wait until the transmission is at about 45 degrees Celsius. And the way we're going to verify that is by using a car lead. So we're going to plug it in, start the car, and then pump 2 liters while the car is warming up. All right, I've just pumped in the 2 liters of fluid that is remaining. While that's warming up, I'm also going to go through all of the gears and make sure that the fluid is kind of circulating all around the transmission because I think that will help speed up the process too. After I drained the unwanted fluid that I put extra in, I can finally clean up the area and we're done. It's definitely a good feeling when I almost finished all the mechanical parts of the car. I just have to put this inner lining back into the car and then start taking a look at that hail damaged hood. To remove the previous hood, there's the shock that I have to remove, and then there's 2 bolts at the hinges that you have to take off, one at the bottom and one at the top. And it's the exact same procedure on the other side. The hood is very heavy, so I did ask Elisa to help me out with one side while we do remove the hood. Lining up with the hinges is definitely tough, but me and Elisa did manage to do it together. Thank you, Elisa. I can now put the bolts in, put the shocks in, and we're done. Alright, and to end the video off, I'm gonna do a full price breakdown of everything we've done in this video as always. This one really hurt my bank account. Firstly, we had to buy another O-ring and the power steering reservoir. Both of those things costed $73.06. Now we bought those light bulbs. Both of the bulbs were $33.16. Then we had to buy the hood, which was the big one for me. It was $800. The windshield was $309.70. And lastly, we had to buy a few hose clamps for the power steering reservoir. And those clamps were $5.24. Our new total is $10,790.98. We are definitely getting close to the market value of the car, so we cannot be spending a lot more than this. That would be it for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy it. If you guys did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out way more than you think. And also share with your friends and family. The next one is going to be all of the cosmetic stuff of the car, including a detail, which is this car really needs, and also a few more cosmetic things that we have to fix on the car. Thank you so much for watching. Have yourself a wonderful day.
Feel like Kobe, I'm like